Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very pleased to have as my guest, Alan and Angie Thomas, and let me tell you about them. So on March 2017, at the age of 55, Alan Thomas stepped on his scale and it read 304 pounds. Literally, panic set in. It was the day of his 31st wedding anniversary, and three thoughts ran through his mind. First, he could not recall ever meeting a 65-year-old man that was more than 100 pounds overweight. His experience as a life insurance professional told him that he had less than 10 years to live. Second, he knew he would be known as his wife Angie's first husband, since she probably would be dead in less than 10 years. And third, that all the dreams that he hoped to accomplish in the future would be cut short by this obesity. In the state of panic, he thought, okay, I'm going to reach for my cell phone. I'm going to take a picture, because at that moment he knew, he made the decision that he never would see those numbers on the scale again. Fast forward 260 days, Alan stepped on that same scale and weighed 175 pounds. Let's just take a moment and rejoice in that. He conquered a lifelong battle with obesity in 260 days. His wife, Angie, who lost 63 pounds in 190 days, go girl. So Alan and Angie have been on dozens and dozens of diets and exercise plans and have never been able to take off the weight. Today, they teach, they coach their clients to lose weight. The process known as Rethink Dieting gets incredible results, but Alan and Angie never tell anyone what to eat or what exercises to do, but their clients unlock their potential as weight releases. If a diet or exercise plan were the answer, everyone would already be their ideal weight. The solution is never a diet. It is a decision. Please join me as we talk today about, is your weight holding you back? Please welcome Alan and Angie Thomas. My goodness, I just want to say kudos to you. I love your message. I'm so proud of what you did, and I am so looking forward to you all having such a wonderful next 20 or 30 more years. This is going to be awesome. We always start with the easy questions, my dears. What is the place that you call home now? Where do you live?
Amelia Island, Florida. We moved in a family of 6 back in 2005 from Columbia, South Carolina. We wanted to be closer to the water. 2 hours to Charleston, which is too far. So we made some big life changes and moved to Florida in hopes of getting healthy, I'll just say. But instead, we ate everything, and we had to eat our island, I think, and continue anyway, getting us to kind of where we wound up. But I have to say, May is the anniversary for Alan. It is his anniversary of reaching.
Awesome.
So I have to say.
Wow. That is so wonderful. And really, I thought that one sentence that you got on the scale and that you were like in panic, because really it almost feels like how this happened overnight. And we know that it didn't. We know that it was in some cases years, some cases months of us doing what we shouldn't do. But I never got that large, but for me, I was always very, very thin. And so I had to lose 60 pounds. And it was
Wow.
one of those things where I was going to be 58 and my daughter was pregnant and I wanted to chase around my grandbaby. You
Sure.
have to
Awesome.
have, you need your why. If it can't be that the doctor's telling you you're going to only have so many years if you don't do something. But for me, it was, I want to be that grandma that chases after those little ones. And now she's got 2 boys and I am chasing after them.
Excellent. It's wonderful.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, it's never, you know, do we want people to be healthy? Of course we do. Do we want them to eat good stuff and exercise and live till they're 150? Absolutely. But let's face it, I mean, there's nobody out there that lives in a first world country that doesn't already know what to eat, doesn't already know that obesity and overweight will take years off your life. But if that were enough, everybody, just like with the diets, everybody would already be thin, everybody would already be fit. And what happens so much of the time, and in this, stepping on the scale for me was, if it had read 299.99999, I would be sitting here probably at 400 pounds. Okay. But because it said 300, it was just kind of one of those moments
Yeah.
where God or the creator just opened my mind to the fact that, hey buddy, you're not going to be around. You're
Yeah.
not going to be around. It wasn't about my current health. I didn't have any serious medical issues whatsoever. I could have made that story up that, oh, I'm fine, I can do this. But at the end of the day, you start realizing that, hey, I hadn't at that time met anybody. Now I have today. I mean, we've actually had clients that have been in their 70s that had over 100 pounds to lose. And so, but in general, you just never see those, especially men who are morbidly obese, because they don't live, they're dead.
Yeah.
And we miss the piece of all of the struggle that goes along. I love your concept of leadership. I mean, it's like Angie was always supporting me in my weight
Yeah.
journey. She was always, but slowly she was gaining the weight too. I mean, slowly she was gaining. I mean, and it wasn't that, but it was never urgent for us to get it done. But then she was determined she wasn't going to. Angie's very competitive. And so she was sure she wasn't going to let me get there without her getting there. And I did, but it's like we notice this over and over with our clients, is that people who, when action starts to take place, I literally was just on the phone 10 minutes ago with a client in the Midwest who, for the first time in his life, he's like, oh my God, it's working. Oh my God, it's working. The weight's coming down, all this. And
Nice.
he's telling me about other family members that are taking action now. Leadership starts with the person between your elbows. It starts, and it's not that you have to go out and write a best-selling novel. It's not that you have to go out and start a multi-million-dollar company. It's not that you have to do something that is Einstein worthy of creating the theory of relativity or something like that. If you just do something as simple as get your weight under control, that it
Yeah.
unlocks this potential. I mean, we've seen. I think about one of our clients that has he was over 450 pounds when he came to us.
Mhm.
And he was in a wheelchair if he had to walk more than 10 feet. He was an individual that, and I tell people up front, we're never going to tell you what to eat because they already know. They already know. And if I tell them what to eat, it's going to be the wrong thing. Now, do we guide them? Of
Mhm.
course, we have some guidance, but it was interesting. He'd never been on a diet. Now, this guy's 5'10" and 452 pounds and never been on a diet in his life. And he said, but Alan, what am I going to eat? When it pushed, I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, if your wife, who you love dearly, and your 2 daughters, who I know you love dearly, if their life was on the line, And the only way that you could get them back alive was for you to lose 1 pound every 7 days until you reach that ideal weight. Could you save their life? He said, oh, yeah, I could do that. I said, what would you do? Now, he'd never been on a diet. And he thought for about 30 seconds. He said, I've got it. I know what I'll do. I said, what would you do? He said, I'll eat less. Now, it sounds crazy to say it. It was like he was making a joke. He was dead serious. Now, almost 200 pounds later, it's working,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But what's interesting is not the weight loss is impressive, but the thing that I always tell our clients is you got to tell me about the stuff that happens in your life that has nothing directly to do with weight, because that's where we get that charges us, that gives us this mission. And he called us about a year ago. He was in New York. He's with a company that has about 40,000 employees internationally. He had always been in operations, and he said, I just want to call you. I just won the International Sales Award. And
Oh.
I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, that's fantastic. When did you transfer to sales? He said, that's why I'm calling you. He said, the CEO gave me the award in front of thousands of, I don't know how many people they had. I think it was over 1,000 people. He said, they gave me the award. I'm the only person ever that's not been in sales to get the international award. He said, it came because of my weight loss journey and attract to the client. And so those kind of things are sitting there. What I want the listeners to get, if they don't hear anything that I'm saying, if they don't hear anything about the weight, they don't hear anything about the confidence you'll gain, all these things, it's like the floodgates of heaven are waiting to be open when you get this simple thing called weight down.
Yeah.
And we see it happen over and over and over again. And it's not things that we can script. It's crazy.
Two things that I unpack in that. The first thing is you mentioned earlier about the fact that if you don't get your weight under control, you're shortening your life. But if you don't get your weight under control, think of all the things, like I said, you can't chase after your grandbabies, but your client had to be in a wheelchair if he was going a distance. I can't go to Disneyland because I can't walk that far. I can't go to the ball game because the parking lot is here and the field is down there, and I can't make it that far without having help. Or just to go around the house and take care of the house and clean the house. You can't do that. There are so many people that their quality of life is impacted by the decision.
Yeah, no doubt, Vicki. And even beyond the quality of life. And this speaks to that. I mean, those are all things that are first kind of what I would consider kind of a first level of obesity and overweight. The real level is the underneath, the monkey on the back. So before you lost your 60 pounds, it was on your mind all the time, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was every time we walk, and I'm not saying this to you, every time we walk into a meeting, we were wondering if they're judging us based on our weight or they judge based on my ability. Every time that we go into the situation where we're a little concerned that we can't make it up the stairs, am I going to be embarrassed by that? And you get this emotional weight that is not the physical weight, the emotional weight, and that is the real burden. That's the one that keeps you from having your own podcast, keeps you from doing the things that from a leadership standpoint or from a business standpoint or from a relationship standpoint, you don't take chances because you're worried about being safe. And it's just, it happens over and over. We can soften it with coping. My softening was I made jokes. And you can tell you, I made joke after joke about myself. It was softening. It was because I was dying inside. It wasn't the physical death. It was the emotional death. I was worried that, she was, people would see us together. And I mean, and even when Angie had the extra expense, she still drop dead gorgeous. And people say, and they would say, I would just feel the shame of it, and finding out that my kids were not bringing home friends because they were embarrassed about their dad's weight, because you're wearing your lack of self-control. Does that make sense? And it's just, it's not to shame people, but but that's what they're thinking about between their elbows. I've seen it over and over. And people tell us all the time, they say, well, what should I weigh? I said, well, let me ask you, what would you weigh if what do you believe you were created to weigh at your weight? And it's interesting. You always get to the truth, and it's not on a chart. And what's interesting is that that ideal weight is the weight where you're free, where you don't have the emotional monkey on your back, where you're, and it's different for people. We never tell people what they should weigh either, because they already know.
You know, one of the whole, I guess the whole concept of my podcast is to find your confidence. And the confidence comes in so many different ways, and the courage is brought out. I have my anti-aging and wellness side business too, because I want to take away the excuses, and we have a weight management system as well. But are you avoiding mirrors? Are you not going on stage? Are you not going on podcast because you lack that confidence, because of how you look, because of how you feel, because of how you look? And you are so true. It is. And I always say between the ears, you give them a little bit more space. Say it's what's between your ears that's keeping in and holding you back. So whenever you created this Rethink Dieting, what were you initially trying to accomplish, and what did come out of that you didn't even realize that you would do?
Well, honestly, it was one of our mentors, Dan Miller, who he's a best-selling author, and he's a career coach, and he actually coached us out of our business in South Carolina. We moved down here 20 years ago, but he told it after we went through a weight loss journey. He said, "Alan, you ought to coach people on weight." I said, "That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard." I said, I was a failure at it. I said, and to tell somebody what to eat, are you kidding me? I'll never do that. I said, that's just silly. But what happened after that, and how this came about, was about a month or two after that, somebody heard about my journey as a man that I didn't know. And he reached out to me on Facebook. He said, "I heard your journey." And he said, I heard something different than I've ever heard before. He said, "Would you speak with me?" I said, "Sure, I'd be glad to." I mean, I thought you just want to talk to me. And most people say, "What did you do?" What they're really asking when they say, "What did you do?" by the way, they're saying, "What did you find that you could eat as much as you want, whenever you want, and whatever you want?" That's really what they're asking. So I was waiting on him to do that, but he didn't ask me that. He said, "You said that weight was holding you back. It's holding me back too." He said, and we talked for about 10 minutes. He said, "Would you coach me?" And I said, I mean, really, I had this sinking feeling in my body. It was not a good feeling. I was sitting right here, and I was on Zoom with him. And I said, "Okay, I'll do 3 sessions." And it was a ridiculously low price. I said, "But please understand, I'm never going to tell you what to eat." I'm never going to tell you what, that came out of my mouth really that first time. That's not your problem. Now, about 70 pounds down, his life started coming to life. His life, he ran his first mile with family flying in from across the country, because he'd never run a mile. At age 48, I didn't tell him to run a mile. He wanted to accomplish it. He started a business. He became confident enough where he recently wrote a book and sent me his book, and he had quotes from me in it, which I thought was pretty neat. Who would quote me? I mean, it's like, but it was funny. But it came out of that journey that I went on, because I knew that when I heard him, I heard myself. That's what happened. And so it forced me and Angie to go back and retrace our steps. And what did we do? If I'm not going to tell people what to eat, well, how did the weight really come off of me? And I started walking down those steps of what we did. And it's so overused, but the word mindset, it's overused, but it is. And people ask us all the time, well, how do you get somebody that walks with a walker, has a heart condition, is 70 years old, to lose 130 pounds, and they've never been able to lose it in 52 years? True story. I said, because we teach people how not to quit. We teach them how not to quit. And that's really it. It's just like doing this podcast that you're doing. I mean, how many people start a podcast? Like a million, a zillion. Yeah. I mean, you've done a lot of them. This is not your first one, right? This is not your first interview, but you have a reason for doing it. You have a reason to persevere, and we do that in our other areas of life. But when it comes to weight, we're always ready to take the next Arbor Day. You got to pick a cake for Arbor Day, or you got to at least have a big meal with your family. And oh my gosh, how about Valentine's? Well, it's not just some candy. You got to have a whole meal, and let's have some wine and some other things go along with it. And you got to have dessert, and then don't forget you got a birthday coming up, and you've got anniversary, and you've got this. We create. And then those are the celebrations, and oh my gosh, then I gotta my boss yelled at me, so now I've got to eat a big meal because my boss yelled at me. We create all these events around food, and food has become this idol for us. And there's nothing wrong with food, but it has, and we lose control, and then we start wearing the lack of self-control in our exterior. We're wearing it's like if you flunked out of law school twice. I hope you didn't flunk out of law school. I don't know if you ever went to law school, but if you flunk, nobody really knows. Okay, nobody really knows, except if you're or whatever. If you've had a business failure, if you had a million different things that could have happened, nobody can see that. But when you're carrying an extra 129 pounds like I was wearing failure all day long and pretending nobody saw it. And I don't say that to belittle somebody who struggles with weight. Listen, they've got more strength than they realize. And this is one thing, if nobody hears anything from our talk, I want them to hear this, is there's hope. If you tell me you can't lose, I say bull. If you tell me you can't, now, is it easy for everybody? No. I mean, I think about a client of ours who's got an autoimmune disease. She can barely walk. She's down 40 something pounds, and it's taken her about 7 months. It's not gone as fast as she wanted, or 8 months, whatever it is, to drop that. But if you ask this woman if she's reaching her ideal weight, she'll like, oh, you watch me. So they get their mojo back. They get and that's what I want people to hear. They don't necessarily, maybe they need me, or Angie, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I want them to understand that courage that they had one time in their life, that ability to reach a level that they can reach, within there is sitting between their elbows waiting on them.
And you have you are accountability partners for these people. There's so many people that are so embarrassed or so challenged that they don't reach out to anyone. They just want to keep it private to themselves and don't realize that just having somebody to talk to about it, or somebody that's gone through it, it's so helpful.
Well, it is, but it's also, and you said something, you said more than just a second ago, where they don't want anybody to know about it. This is the thing that I want to say to everybody, and not in a way to shame them, but in a way to know. Everybody knows. There's not enough layers of clothes. There's not enough shades of clothes to hide it. Everybody knows already. And what we do with our clients, we want them to see that there's no shame in it. It's a shame-free zone. And when they realize that, and this is where the beauty of it is too. And I tell this to every client that comes into our process. If you're in a room of 1,000 men and women, and every one of them looks like a James Bond model, you know how they look. I mean, they're perfect. They're all look like they're put together. They're wearing $10,000 outfit, and hair's perfect. They're perfect weight down to the shoes, and there you are with 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds extra weight, and everybody sees it. You're the only one. What I want people who are listening to this, who make the 42% that are listening to this that struggle with their weight, because I'll guarantee it's 42% is that are obese or morbidly obese, and over 70% that are overweight. But out of those 1,000 people, they all have a weight too. They might have a relationship going bad. They might have a business failure. They might have this or that, and you can't see it. Okay? You're 100 pounds overweight, and they can see your problem or whatever it is. Well, when you start, this is where the magic happens. When you start releasing your weight, some people call it losing, but when you start releasing that weight, you can't hide that either.
Yeah.
And when you start releasing that weight, you're going to see those perfectly sized people come to you, and they're going to say you gave them hope. You're going to see things happen in their lives because they saw you win, and they're going to start to think, if you can do that, they can do this. And it's so interesting. Then you start to develop this identity that you always had available, where you're somebody that has a lot of courage. and where you're somebody that can win. And then all of a sudden you're not the fat guy or the fat woman or the whatever anymore. All of a sudden you're the person that beat the unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then they get encouraged by it. And that's what's crazy. And there's so many things around this that have nothing to do with nutrition. Do you have to eat right? Of course you do. I mean, it's like we spoke at a no sugar summit that had several thousand people recently. We're not PhDs or anything, but it's like, it's common sense. If you're going to eat a bunch of sugar, you're probably not going to lose weight. Sugar's okay as far as I'm concerned. If you lose weight and eat it, go for it. But if you can be healthy with it, but at the end of the day, there's things that are common sense. It has to do with all the things that you're holding in, the things that
Yeah.
when you release
Yeah.
it. So,
And there's so many people that eat to deal with stress and eat for comfort, and they try to lose the weight by denying themselves the food. I was always a big proponent that if I need a chocolate, I'll just eat a little chocolate kiss, or something to just fulfill that, so I don't feel denied of it. But everything in moderation. When I was very thin, I ate 8 times a day, but I just ate little meals 8 times a day. And I think that's the thing, that you just have to figure out what works for you. But if you have things going on in your head that are making you stress out and stress eat, you got to deal with that first.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and you said something that you said a lot of people, um, will eat for comfort. And we've done a very unscientific study, and I'm pretty closely to close to the actual number, but we find that only about 100% of our clients are emotional eaters. It may be higher than that, but I can't. But it's like we've had a few of them that said they weren't, and then they proved me wrong. I said because it's the moral thing. It's the moral vice. And when I reached it was about almost 6 years ago this week. Friend of ours that he was not in our wedding, but he was at our wedding. He and his wife, we've been friends for many, many years, and he became an alcoholic and a drug addict. And in '93 he got sober. Well, when he got sober, he got very, very wealthy too. He became a very successful in real estate and business, and just incredibly successful. He was really worried about my weight going up, because he figured I was going to leave Angie as a widow, and he would check on me. And so when I won him, he called me up. He said, "Alan," he said, "I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it." He said, "But I want to tell you something you need to hear. You've got it harder than me." And I said, "What do you mean? You're an alcoholic and a drug addict." He said, "Yeah, I don't ever have to walk in a bar or take a drug as long as I live, but you got to eat." And I can tell you, I almost wrecked my car. I can tell you right on Amelia Island where I was on South Fletcher. It's a road here in Amelia Island. I can tell you exactly where I was when he said it, because he's right.
Yeah.
People, yeah, and one of our clients told me this. It was interesting. People who struggle with let's say alcohol, drugs, that kind of thing, those kind of dependencies, they can lock their beast up in a cage, and they have to walk by it occasionally to keep that beast from eating them. Well, when you struggle with food, and when you struggle with obesity, and most people who are overweight are obese, by the way. They think they're overweight, but they're obese. And I'm not saying it to call anybody out, but when you struggle with obesity, what you have to do is you have to take your beast out for walks several times a day and not get eaten by it.
Yeah.
And it's the truth. It never goes away. If people think there's a magical land, like I said, of eat as much as you want, whenever you want, whatever, it does not exist. Is it okay to have the treat? Yeah. I mean, there's a guy that a couple of years back, we call him the apple pie guy. He came to one of our calls, and he thought I was going to yell at him. He said, "You know what I have for breakfast?" Real timidly. "So what'd you have for breakfast?" He said, "Apple pie." I said, "Good for you." He said, "You're not mad?" I said, "Of course not." I said, you figured it out though, didn't you?" He said, I did. He said, yesterday I this, and they had apple pie, but I knew I couldn't have it if I was going to win at it this week. So I saved it for today. And I said, he said, you mean you're not upset I had apple pie? I said, no. He said, oh my gosh, this is guilt free. I said, that's right, because you figured it out. We want, because you need, and this is what we do. What is the weight loss industry now? It's somewhere between 60 and 90 billion in the US. That's US.
Yeah.
Now the number of obese people worldwide is going over 915 million right now. That's worldwide. Okay. Somebody's dying every 7 seconds of an obesity related illness. Every 6.8 seconds, gone. These are not my numbers. These are real numbers. But we act like it's not important. But we want to abdicate the role of weight loss to some plan or something. And there's nothing wrong with these. I applaud people who have different things, but at the end of the day, at some level, we have to take the personal responsibility and own it. It's like you did when you lost your 60 pounds. You had to own it. You couldn't abdicate it to your doctor. 25-30% of medical professions are obese or overweight. And so they usually get
all the doctor said is, you got to lose weight. Do you want me to give you a dietitian? I was like, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it myself.
And that's it. When you own it, it all sudden becomes possible. So taking ownership is a big piece of it. But anyway, I didn't mean to blabber on.
Yeah, but and we talked about food, but the thing is to be able to lose that weight, I had to drink a whole heck of a lot more water. And I found that water, a lot of times we think we're hungry and we're just thirsty. And people need to understand that. And, I ran into so many people in my life that say, oh, I don't like water. I was like, I'm telling you, after you drink it for a little bit, you need it. And and the other piece is, how many of us say we only sleep like 3 hours a day or 4 hours?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and really, it's so tied to being healthy. Weight is getting that 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep.
Well, so much of it is this emotional driven, just like you said. I mean, at the end of the day, our 14-year-old son, who's now 25, and when I was on my 60th or 70th diet, and he looked at me one day and he said, Dad, he said, this is just really a math equation, right? Now, this is a 14-year-old telling me this. And I'm
Smart
like,
cookie there you got.
what are you talking about? And he said, if you burn more than you eat, you're gonna lose weight. I said, no. And I mean, literally, I remember him telling me that. I was thinking, that is not true. There's no way that's true. And but it is. And I know people want to argue that fact, but you can't. And now there's more to it than that. There's more to the emotional pieces. And it's like a client we were on the phone with the other day that just they're understanding the emotional side. They're starting to understand what it was, the mental side. They're, one of ours who had nearly a little over 200 pounds to release, and after about 10 weeks, he's, I think, down 35, 40 pounds, whatever it is. First time in his life, he's winning at it, and successful in business. He's successful in marriage and all these different things. But he's realized that he travels a lot, and he's figuring it out all of a sudden. He's coming back weighing less than he did when he went. And he realizes he doesn't have to punish himself.
Yeah.
If he reaches for a Snickers, and I don't, whatever, I'm going to cheer for him, because there's two things going on. You're either winning at it or you're learning. If you really are paying attention, but if you pay attention, you can win at this thing called weight. But there's so much at stake. There's so much at stake. I mean, this is the thing not to miss. And we've looked for a study, and I haven't found a conclusive one, but the general consensus is that about every pound, there's a European study that in kilograms, 1 kilogram is equal to about 2 months of your life. So that means every pound is equal to about a month of your life. Yeah. So if you think about it, I know Norman Vincent Peale, I think, was the one that said when he was 91, he was asked by a younger person how old he was. He said, well, I'm 91, or he was 92, excuse me. He's 92. And the young guy said, well, I don't know if I want to live to 92. He said, that's because you've never been 91. So we think we don't want to live, but yeah, you will. You will want to live. Okay. You will want to live. And so what if you could buy back? Now, people get worried about debt. Obesity is the greatest debt that you could possibly have. This is choice. It is 100% a choice. I know it's harder for some than others. I own that, but there is no data out there that suggests that weight gain is due to anything except excessive eating. There's no data. There isn't. And prove me wrong. I know that some people have lower metabolism. I get that, all that, but there's still a way. But what if you could buy back a year ahead of time? What if you could buy back 10 years, 15 years? And what if I'm off by half? What if you only bought back 7? Well, how cool is that? Maybe you're there. It's like you have impact with your podcast. You have impact with the relationships in your business. You have impact. Maybe there's somebody that you touch because of the fact that you cared enough about them to have them on a podcast, or somebody that you got their story out of. Maybe whatever the situation, maybe your leadership led them down a road that 5 generations from now change the world.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. If you can imagine taking the 915 million people and unleashing their potential.
Yeah.
Now, if that doesn't get you fired up, you got wet wood, as we say down here in Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's why I also like to work with the youth, because it's just, I think, important that we help them have a better life than what we had and get set up for it. And so there's all kinds of stress that we didn't have when we were little that they have now. We had stress. It's different than our parents had, but all of it's scary sometimes for me how many of the kids are suicidal and just have no self-worth or self-esteem. And so why add another thing? Let's get you healthy. Let's get things right between your ears, and let's let you have a great life.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add that, as you mentioned with the youth, unfortunately, the numbers of obesity, even for the young children, are just going crazy, Vicki.
Yeah.
And it's because of, obviously, unfortunately, the parents are often
Absolutely.
They're not getting the necessary help in the home because the parents are not living it. So the best thing is to show them, live it, parents, whatever the discipline is that needs, support, whether it's through obesity or weight or drinking or relationship or whatever.
Yeah.
But in this case, yes, it pains us to see the numbers that are so staggering. The youth, and the young people that are having surgeries and so forth, because we see the side effects. Many of our clients have actually had surgeries and had them reversed, and have unfortunately had the side effects. They've lived with the side effects of their surgeries and
weight loss
surgeries, and then they're not even having the success.
If you don't change the behavior, the surgery is not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people because again, we're looking for the magic pills. We're looking for the magic, and the magic is sitting between your elbows.
Yeah.
It's sitting right there waiting on you. But like Angie, if you want your family to change, if you want your neighborhood to change, if you want the people at work to change, then you've got to lead them not by telling them. Me talking, I enjoy talking, but nothing worked as well as me showing.
Yeah.
Angie showing. It's like with our kids. I mean, they don't struggle with obesity. I mean, now they could have, but at the end of the day, there's nothing as powerful as showing them.
Yeah.
You're saying this to brag. I mean, I should have never been 304 pounds, for crying out loud. I mean, that was my choice. I thought it wasn't. But the point being is that if we show them, because like Angie said, 350 million of the 915 are adolescents or children.
Yeah. And how are you rewarding your kids for doing things right? Are you giving them a cupcake or a cookie? Are we teaching them to reward ourselves with food as opposed to verbal praise and other ways.
Well, and even if you're, and here's the thing, I have no problem with giving them a cupcake. But what I have problem with is that we are eating at midnight, or we're eating on and the scale keeps going up, and the scale keeps going up, and the scale keeps going up. That's where the challenge is. Have the cupcake, have the cookie.
Not a dozen.
But not a dozen.
That's often the issue.
Yeah.
That's what I said. The moderation. It's like I could bake a cake, and I would have to throw that cake out if it was just me in the house, because I cannot eat that whole cake. I just I have a bite and I'm done. My husband, he could eat the whole cake. I couldn't keep it. Now I just don't bake cakes anymore, but there are a lot of people that way, where if it's there, they just like seafood. They see it and they have to have it.
Yeah. No, I was definitely on the seafood diet for years. And so, but the food's not the enemy. Okay. And this
no,
it's not the enemy. And it's so many of the people that we run into think that, well, I'm eating healthy. Well, great. Well, show me. And they want us, even, I know one of our clients is funny. We show them how to get really certain about what the how the weight's going to come off, how to get so certain, because when we have certainty, it's easier to go the distance. And it was so interesting. She was struggling with what her eating strategy she was using. And she was asking, well, what do you like better, this one over here? I said, well, listen, why don't you test them both for 90 days and see which one works better? Well, guess what? Then she stuck to the one that she was working with, and the weight started to fall off. And that's it, because it's easy to get predictable with it. It's super easy. It was, people think that it's complicated. It's not. I know one of our clients who's, there's a video going around where he jumped out of an airplane after dropping 90 pounds with us, screaming, I lost the weight. It was pretty cool when he sent it to us. But what was interesting is 6 months after he started with the program, I reached out to him one day. I said, how close are you to where you thought you'd be? And he said, I'm kind of far off from where I thought it'd be. And I said, well, what is it? And he looked at his data, and it was like 1.5 pounds away from what he predicted 6 months earlier. And I said, buddy, that's winning. I said, that's your only. He said, well, I thought it'd be exactly on it. I said, no, you're not that good. So it's not that complex, but you got to do the work. And the work is not how many push-ups you do. Don't want you, hey, if you can do some push-ups, do some. It's not how many miles you ran. It's not how many pieces of broccoli you ate. It's, are you willing to do the mental work? That's the heavy lifting. We've had clients that have uncovered past traumas. We've had clients that have done things and they realize that's why the weight was staying with them. We've had them figure out all these different things that were causing it, and we didn't do it. They found the key to their own heart. And that's when it's fun, when they get to realize, and then all of a sudden they realize that others, I know one of us sent us a note recently that all of a sudden they're looking around at work and realizing that, oh my gosh, this place is not where I thought it was. And they were using food to cope. And it's just fun to see people winning at something that's so simple but so hard. And when I talk about it, people may get the impression it is hard. Is it simple? Yes. Is it doable? 100%. But there is no way to avoid the long game on this. There's no way to.
I always say you have to have courage to be confident, and to go on that journey, you really have to have the courage and believe in yourself. You totally have to constantly, you should have affirmations in the morning and the night that reinforce the mindset that you need to take this journey, because it is a long one at times. And it's easy to give up. And that's when you need people like you all to build you back up and make you see what it's worth, it, and recognize the small wins too. I think one of the things that I did in those to lose all that weight, I didn't weigh myself for probably a month and a half. I just took my measurements. And what I noticed is my pants were fitting looser. I was dropping dress sizes, but I wasn't weighing myself because the scale, was if you weren't a pound down or something, you might get all depressed and everything. But I just weighed myself, and all of a sudden, like 49 inches are gone.
There
And
you
it was
go.
like, oh,
Hey,
yeah.
here's the thing: whatever gets you the outcome, and you don't have to do crazy. This is the other.
Yeah.
This is the other piece. We don't have to do
Mm-mm.
crazy to get there. And it's.
No.
I know one of our clients, a lady that PhD, brilliant young woman who struggled for years and years, and she allegedly, like many of our clients, allegedly borrowed a seatbelt extender for a major airline, because that is the greatest shame in the world, is to have to ask
Yeah.
for a seatbelt extender. It
Yeah.
is. We've seen people will pour themselves into an airline seat so they don't have to, but she, every time, and this is a brilliant woman. She's not a she's not somebody to be trifled with in business, and she's accomplished in a lot of these things. But every time she got on the airplane, even though she had that seatbelt extender in her purse that she's one day going to be handing back to that airline, and where she allegedly had borrowed from them, and she would cry into herself, emotionally torn up, because she was having to put that around her, and she knew she was better
Mm.
than that. But so funny, about 4 weeks in, she was down whatever it was, 15, 20 pounds, whatever it was. I don't remember. She said, I got on the airplane. I still needed the seatbelt extender. She said, it's the first time I've been on a plane and didn't want to cry. She said,
Oh,
because I'm positive that I'm going to get
mm,
there.
nice.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's
Yeah.
possible for people.
Again, it's the small wins. You got to celebrate them.
Right.
Awesome.
That's right. If you make a 98 in a test, and if anybody out there that makes a 98 is going to ask, what did I miss? What two did I miss? Instead of celebrating the 98 they got right.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, we could talk probably for another 3 hours on this.
Probably.
It's been just been so wonderful. But you gave so many great pieces of advice, nuggets, and stories. And, I just want to encourage the audience to definitely reach out to Alan and Angie if you have had any of this resonate with you. Maybe they aren't the right people to work with you, but you should do it for yourself first, and for those that love you and you love, because you want to be around for them, and you want to chase after grandbabies, babies, friends. I don't know. You want to enjoy life. And if you want to live to 100, you want to have the quality of life that makes you happy to live to 100, and not be wishing every day that you weren't around anymore. So thank you so much for being a great guest. And I'm going to share my screen now for those that are listening, so you can get that contact information and be able to reach out and meet or discuss with Alan and Angie how they might be able to help you. So the website that you want to go, and this is for those that are just listening, as well as you can get a screenshot if you're watching. But for those listening, it's https://transformmyfuture.com. Again, that's transformmyfuture.com. On Facebook, you can find him at Alan Thomas Transformation, and that's a capital A, Alan Thomas Transformation. On YouTube, just search Alan Thomas, you'll find him. And I will let Alan and Angie talk to you about what you can find when you go to the website, or maybe point out a couple YouTube episodes that might be really helpful. So it's all yours.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, we actually created something just specifically for your audience. And if they'll go to transformmyfuture.com/leadership, there's a place where they can register to see a free training that we do, and it's one we recently recorded. It's a 5-step strategy that Angie and I used to lose 192 pounds in 260 days together, and how we show our clients to do the same thing, whether they travel. We've helped We've helped commercial airline pilots who travel all over the world escape obesity. We've helped elderly people. We've helped younger people, and it's the strategy. It's the 5 steps to it. Whether you've struggled your whole life, if you don't believe you can lose, you can. And it's just, but it's go watch that because it really will serve them. There's nothing to buy. They don't have to buy a thing. And we've had people come back to us. Literally, we had somebody in May reach out to us, send us an email that the video, they were literally in the ICU and the video saved their life. And I couldn't believe it. I'm not a doctor. And the fact that they could be possibly having a heart attack was on their mind. And they went to the hospital and they said if they hadn't have gotten there when they did, they wouldn't be alive today. And we've had people drop 20, 30, 40 pounds just from applying the principles in that video. So
awesome.
So definitely go check it out.
Okay. So again, that's transformmyfuture.com/leadership to take advantage of that. It has been just wonderful chatting with you and hearing your stories, so inspirational. And everything you said was doable. That's what I love about it. It is all doable. But it is up to you to really make the change. Nobody
100%.
can tell you what to do. Nobody can counsel you on how to do it if you don't have the mindset to do it.
100%.
So,
That totally great. Thank you so much for having us here, Vicki. It's been a blast.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.